Hey guys, welcome back to Explainer X. Today, I am going to recap a 1978 romance drama movie named Stay As You Are. So, let's begin. While in Florence, an architect, Giulio Marengo, visits a garden to meet the gardener because his client wants to buy a statue in that garden. When he enters the garden, he walks a long way before seeing the first person, and he sees a young girl with her hair all over her body. He calls out for her, and she raises her head, revealing her very pretty face, and he looks at her disorganized for a while before getting the composure to ask her where the gardener is. She tells him the gardener is by the other side of the garden, and he goes to meet the gardener. Upon meeting the gardener, he appreciates the gardener's work on the garden and how he has preserved most of the landscape in the garden. He tells the gardener he likes one of the statues and wants to buy it for his client, but the gardener informs him that no part of the garden is for sale. As they talk, the girl walks past him, waving to the gardener and telling him goodbye. The gardener tells her it's late, and she wouldn't get a bus, but she insists she has it covered, and she will get one. Giulio asks her to be patient for a while, and he will carry her down to the house, but she refuses, saying she has no patience left. She walks away, and after Giulio finishes his futile conversation with the gardener, he goes to his car and drives towards the girl. He doesn't know her name yet, but her name is Francesca. He meets up with Francesca, who asks him how he can recognize her despite the book she used to cover her eyes, and he says he can always recognize her. He asks her to enter the car, so he will give her a ride, and as they drive away, he figures she is reading a botany textbook and decides to engage her in botany conversation. He asks her about the cypresses. He asks what she thinks about them, but she says she doesn't think about anything much about them except the fact that they are dying. He also asks her about Tuscany. She tells him she has figured out the answer to the question her friend asked her, and he asks her what the question is. She tells him the question is about the things that turn her on in a man, and before, she was torn between three parts of the body, but at that moment, she has realized her answer, and she is sure it's the hand. She says hands have different feelings, and they make emotions when they want to touch someone, and when he asked her about the cypresses, his hands wished to touch her. He denies this and continues his conversation. He tells her he needs to check something in a garden, and he stops the car. Before he comes down, she tells him he should at least touch her once. She asks if he is afraid of her, but he says no, so she takes his hands and licks them, then rubs it on her breast. He goes to ask the worker at the gardener some questions, and while he is there, he sees Francisca on a bike leaving. He returns to his car and sees a letter on his chair with her number, so when he gets home, he calls her and tells her he is the man with the hands, and she isn't lying. His hands are itching to touch her. That night, he is seen at her apartment, and they have sex. He watches her sleep when her friend, Cecilia, enters the house. He speaks with Cecilia and finds out Francisca's name before leaving the house. The following day, he meets with an old friend, who is also an agriculturist, and they have old memories together. They sit in a bar, and they catch up with old times. While there, Francisca and her friends arrive. She walks past him, and he stands up to talk to her, but she walks to the phone booth, where she seduces him with the way she is behaving. He keeps looking at her, and his friend notices he knows her. He asks him when he got to know her, and he tells him yesterday night, so his friend asks him if he remembers Fosca, one of their friends. While younger, they walk in four, and they walk with Fosca and another lady, Teresa. He remembers Fosca and asks about Teresa too, but his friend tells him Teresa is now no longer as good looking as she was as a kid, and he won't even recognize her if he sees her now. He comments that Francisca doesn't look like him, and Giulio shockingly asks what he means. The man tells him Francisca is Fosca's daughter and Fosca is late. She died about 5 years ago. However, as a young boy, Giulio and Fosca dated before Fosca followed a contractor and traveled to Africa with him, where Francisca was born. Giulio denies the possibility of being Francisca's father, claiming that Fosca left him for another man, but his friend says Fosca returned later, and she had divorced the man and was alone with the child. The man says it may be a mere rumor, but he got to know from Teresa, who is known for spreading such news. He goes to confront Teresa, who says she still has her suspicion about the child and says Francisca was born exactly a year after the relationship with Fosca ended, and before Fosca leaves, she asks Fosca if the pregnancy belongs to Giulio, and Fosca only smiles. Giulio goes to deliver the garden he is working on to the owner, who still wants the statue. Francisca dances around the garden. When the woman notices her, she asks if she is Giulio's daughter. The woman looks at them both and makes a sign signifying that they look alike. He decides to step his relationship with Francisca low. He takes her and her friend out for dinner, and she keeps trying to seduce him with her expression. She taps her friend to leave the dinner, and when she is alone with him, she asks why he is avoiding her. He informs her that he is married and with children, but she says she isn't looking for anyone to take care of her. He drops her at home and keeps thinking of the possibility of being her father. He returns to Rome, his home, late at night, and he sees his daughter, Ilaria, isn't home. He asks his wife where Ilaria is and why she is coming home late. His wife says the girl is 18 and can do whatever she wants with her life. When Ilaria arrives, she tells her father to stop taking her as a baby. The following day, disturbed about Francisca, he meets Cecilia and picks her up from school, so they will talk about Francisca. They talk and play, and Cecilia tells him Francisca doesn't know her father. While they play, Francisca arrives and angrily locks herself in the room upon seeing them. He goes to a friend and tells him about the affair and also says his daughter, Ilaria, is pregnant and contemplating abortion. When he returns to Francisca's room, he sees her with a guy and forces her to send him out before going home. The next day, he speaks with Ilaria, who plans to have her abortion in London. Her baby father calls, and Giulio tries to talk with him, but Ilaria refuses. She claims it's not his fault as she is the one who stopped her pulls, claiming she asked for the sex. He gets angry at her, and while he expresses his anger, Francisca calls, and Ilaria picks up before giving him the phone. He speaks like she is a random girl, but Ilaria figures already and asks him if she is pretty. Some minutes later, Francisca comes to his house, and his wife opens the door. She goes to meet Giulio and tells him about a horse race they want to attend, and he goes with her. After the race, he eats with her adoptive father, Bartolo. They walk around, and he asks her if she doesn't want to know her true father, but she says she isn't interested as it will change nothing, so even if he comes, she will just greet him and leave. He drives her home, but there are several people in her house, so they go into a hotel. She removes her clothes immediately, waiting for Giulio on the bed, but Giulio stays in the bathroom till she sleeps off, and when she sleeps, he sneaks out of the hotel. She cries as she sees him go. He calls his friend again, and he tells him there is a notary where Fosca left a letter for Francisca's father. He goes there, but the priest says Fosca took the letter back a few years later because she claims she has found a man who is ready to take care of her daughter for her, and she is in love with that man, so she isn't interested in finding the real father. Giulio asks if the priest knows the name of the father, but he claims he doesn't know the name and can't remember where he was from. He leaves and decides to tell Francisca the truth. He meets her at a restaurant, and after talking to her, he receives a call. He goes to pick up his call, and upon returning, she has left. She thinks about the situation and cries for a bit before meeting with him again to tell him a father is a person who stays with the child and not one returning after 20 years, so Bartolo is her father and not him. He returns home and finds his wife packing. He asks if she is leaving, but she says she wants to follow Ilaria to Madrid to meet her lover. They talk about their marriage, but his wife insists she is still in love, so he should follow Ilaria to Madrid, so she will be alone for a while. He travels to Madrid with Francisca. When he meets Ilaria, she tells him she has realized her lover isn't really a man, and she has decided to keep the child and raise it alone. She runs along, and Francisca comes to meet him. They go to the club together, return home to make out and have sex, and enjoy each other until they return to Rome. Upon returning to Rome, they go to watch a movie together, and before the movie ends, Giulio sleeps off. When the movie ends, and he wakes, he can't find Francisca. He tries to look for her while she also stares at him from hiding. He goes to his car, signifying their relationship has ended, and she watches in tears as his car leaves. And the movie ends here. So I hope you enjoy the video. So click any video of 3 them and enjoy next, and don't forget to subscribe our channel and hit the like button. Thank you for watching. See you soon.